Midnight Accusations. Ambassador Ronan Matthews stood in the crystalline hall of the Zinthari Palace, his formal diplomatic uniform feeling suddenly heavy against his shoulders. The midnight summons had come without warning, dragging him from his quarters to face the imposing figure of Lord Kerveth, one of the most powerful nobles in the alien confederation. The Lord's silver skin gleamed under the ethereal blue lighting, his forearms crossed in a gesture that Ronan had learned meant extreme displeasure. Behind him was a cluster of Zinthari officials, their elongated faces grave with concern. The silence stretched like a taut wire, until Kerveth finally spoke. "Human ambassador." His voice resonated with the musical quality of his species, but underneath lay a current of barely controlled rage. "You have brought disgrace upon my house and violated the sacred bonds of our diplomatic treaty." Ronan felt his pulse quicken, but years of diplomatic training kept his expression neutral. "My lord, I'm afraid I don't understand the nature of your accusation. I've conducted myself with the utmost respect for Zinthari customs and law." A bitter laugh escaped the lord's throat. "Respect? You call seducing my daughter respect? You call placing your human seed within her womb respect?" The words struck Ronan like physical blows. Around the hall, gasps echoed from the assembled courtiers. "My lord, I assure you that I have never had inappropriate contact with Princess Naira. These accusations are completely unfounded." Ronan's voice remained steady despite the thundering of his heart. He had indeed grown close to the princess during his 6 months posting, but their relationship had remained strictly professional. Kerveth stepped forward, his towering frame casting a shadow over the human diplomat. "My daughter carries a child, ambassador. A hybrid child. Her fertility sensors detected human genetic markers. You are the only human male who has had access to the royal quarters." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Ronan thought of Princess Naira, her gentle manner and intelligent conversation during their many diplomatic sessions. She had been his guide to understanding Zinthari culture, helping him navigate the complex social protocols. The idea that she might be pregnant sent a chill through him, not because he found her unappealing, but because he knew the consequences such a scandal would bring. "Where is the princess now?" Ronan asked, his diplomatic instincts telling him that her testimony would be crucial. Surely she should be present for such serious allegations. "My daughter is confined to her chambers in shame," Kerveth replied coldly. "She refuses to name the father, but the evidence speaks clearly. You will face trial by our ancient laws, human. The penalty for such violation is death." The word hung in the crystalline hall like a death knell. Ronan felt sweat beating on his forehead despite the cool temperature. He had studied Zinthari law extensively, and he knew that trials for crimes against the royal family were swift and brutal. The accused had only one night to prepare their defense. "I request the right to speak with my accusers and examine the evidence, as granted under the diplomatic immunity clause of our treaty." Lord Kerveth's eyes narrowed to silver slits. "Immunity does not extend to crimes of passion, ambassador. However, I will grant you this night to prepare. At dawn, you will face judgment in the circle of truth. Bring whatever evidence you can to support your claims of innocence." As the Lord swept from the hall with his entourage, Ronan stood alone among the glittering walls. His mind raced through possibilities and protocols, but one thought kept returning. Somewhere in this palace, Princess Naira waited in her chambers, carrying a child that could spark a war between their species. Whether he was the father or not, he was now bound to her fate by accusations that could destroy them both.
The Princess's Secret. The royal gardens glowed with bioluminescent flowers as Princess Naira paced along the moonstone pathways. Her silvery blue skin seemed to shimmer in the ethereal light, but her usual grace was marred by obvious distress. When she heard footsteps on the crystal gravel, she turned to see Ronan approaching through the shadows. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice carrying the melodic tones of her people, but edged with fear. "If my father's guards find you in my private quarters, it will only confirm his suspicions." Ronan stepped into the garden's glow, his human features stark against the alien beauty around him. "I had to see you, Naira. I need to know the truth. Are you really carrying a child?" Her four-fingered hand moved instinctively to her still flat stomach. "Yes," she breathed. "The fertility sensors confirmed it 3 days ago. That's when Father began his investigation." "And the genetic markers? Your father claims they're human." He moved closer, studying her face for any sign of deception. During their months of diplomatic contact, he had learned to read her expressions despite the differences in their species. Naira's large, luminous eyes filled with tears. "The readings are complex. The child carries genetic material that doesn't match any known Zenthari patterns. Father assumed it must be human because you're the only other species I've had close contact with." Ronan felt a mixture of relief and confusion. "But you know I'm not the father. We've never been intimate." She turned away from him, her shoulders trembling. "No, we haven't. But Ronan, I've wanted us to be." The confession hung between them like a bridge neither had dared to cross. "These past months, working with you, learning about your people, I've felt things I never experienced before." He reached out tentatively, his human hand touching her alien shoulder. The contact sent warmth through both of them. "Naira, I've felt it too. But we both know the impossibilities." She spun to face him, her eyes blazing with emotion. "Are they impossibilities, or just complications we've been too afraid to face?" Before he could respond, she stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. "When I learned about the pregnancy, I realized how much I wished you were the father." "Who is the real father?" Ronan asked gently, his hand moving to cup her face. Naira's expression darkened. "A Zenthari named Dex Kai. He's a military advisor to my father. 3 months ago, at the Festival of Moons, he forced himself on me when I was alone in the archives. I never told anyone because his family has powerful connections." Rage flowed through Ronan like molten fire. "You raped her?" "By your human definition, yes. By Zenthari law, it's considered a minor transgression since we weren't formally bonded. The pregnancy complicates everything because now it appears I was with someone willingly." Ronan pulled her against his chest, feeling her alien heartbeat against his own. "We have to tell your father the truth." "He won't believe me over Dex Kai without proof," she whispered into his shoulder. "And the genetic anomalies in my child suggest the father wasn't purely Zenthari. Dex Kai has some mixed ancestry that might explain the readings." As they stood together in the garden's glow, Ronan felt the weight of impossible choices. Dawn would bring his trial, where death awaited if he couldn't prove his innocence. But proving his innocence would require revealing Naira's assault, which could destroy her reputation among her people. "There has to be another way,"
he murmured, breathing in her subtle floral scent. Naira pulled back to look at him, her eyes reflecting the garden's blue light. There is one option. The trial of champions. If someone volunteers to fight for your honor and they win, you're declared innocent, regardless of evidence. Who would volunteer for such a thing? Her answer was barely a whisper. I would.
Blood and bonds. The circle of truth buzzed with tension as dawn broke over the Zenthari capital. Ronan stood in the center of the ancient amphitheater, surrounded by crystalline pillars that hummed with energy. Lord Kyle Veth occupied the judgment throne, his forearms gripping the armrests as he glared down at the human ambassador. "The accused stands before us," Kyle Veth announced to the gathered crowd. "Ambassador Ronan Matthews, you are charged with violating my daughter and creating an abomination child. How do you answer?" "I maintain my innocence, my lord," Ronan replied, his voice carrying clearly across the amphitheater. "I request the right to present evidence and call witnesses." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Zenthari trials rarely involved such formalities, being usually decided by confession or combat. Kyle Veth's expression suggested he was prepared to deny the request when a voice rang out from the royal viewing platform. "I claim the right of intervention." All eyes turned to see Princess Naira emerging from behind the crystalline screens that had concealed her. She wore the ceremonial armor of a Zenthari warrior, its silver plates molded to her feminine form. In her hands she carried the curved blade known as a Zentar. "Daughter, what is the meaning of this?" Kyle Veth demanded. "I invoke the trial of champions," Naira announced formally. "I stand as champion for Ambassador Matthews, declaring his innocence through combat." Gasps echoed through the amphitheater. Zenthari trials had never been invoked in over a century, and never by a member of the royal family. Kyle Veth's silver skin flushed dark with anger. "This is absurd! You cannot fight for the man who dishonored you." "He has not dishonored me, father. I swear this by the sacred crystals of our ancestors. The real father of my child stands among your advisors." She pointed her blade toward the section where Dexkai sat among the military officials. The scarred warrior's face went pale, but he quickly composed himself and rose. "My lord," Dexkai called out, "the princess speaks from emotional confusion. The human has obviously influenced her mind with his alien psychology." "Liar," Naira snarled, leaping down from the platform to land gracefully in the arena. "Face me in combat, Dexkai. Let the crystals judge which of us speaks truth." The challenged warrior had no choice but to enter the arena. Zenthari honor demanded acceptance of a formal combat challenge, especially from royalty. As he descended to the arena floor, Ronan moved toward Naira. "You don't have to do this," he said urgently. "We can find another way." She turned to him, her eyes fierce but tender. "This is the only way that saves us both. If I win, you're declared innocent. If Dexkai wins, the truth dies with me anyway." Before he could protest further, she pressed her lips to his in a kiss that sent shockwaves through the amphitheater. The contact was electric, alien, yet perfectly natural. When they parted, her expression was determined. "I fight for more than your innocence, Ronan. I fight for the right to choose my own heart." Dexkai entered the arena wearing full battle armor, his own Zentar gleaming wickedly. He was larger than Naira, more experienced in combat, and motivated by the need to keep his crimes hidden. "Princess," he called mockingly, "withdraw this foolishness. I have no wish to harm you, but I will defend my honor." "Your honor died when you forced yourself on me," Naira replied coldly, raising her blade. The combat began with a flash of silver as their weapons met. Dexkai fought with brutal efficiency, using his size and strength advantage to drive Naira back. She countered with speed and agility, her smaller form dancing around his heavier strikes. Ronan watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding with every exchange. The crystalline arena amplified every sound, every grunt of effort,
every ring of metal on metal. Around them, the crowd watched in stunned silence as their princess fought for the honor of an alien. Dexkai's blade sliced across Naira's arm, drawing silver blood. She stumbled, but didn't fall, using the momentum to spin into a counterattack that caught him across the ribs. They separated, both breathing hard, both wounded. "Yield, Naira. This madness serves nothing." "It serves truth," she replied and launched herself forward in a desperate final assault.
Hearts in the starlight. The medical chamber hummed with healing energy as Ronan sat beside Naira's recovery pod. Her victory over Dex Kai had been decisive but costly, leaving her with injuries that would take days to fully heal. The warrior's dying confession had cleared Ronan of all charges and revealed the true nature of Naira's pregnancy. "The healers say the baby is developing normally," Ronan said softly, his fingers intertwined with hers through the pod's opening. "Despite everything, your child is healthy." Naira smiled weakly, her silver skin still pale from blood loss. "My child will be born free of shame now. That's what matters most." "What happens now?" Ronan asked. "Your father's anger may be redirected, but the political situation is still delicate. A royal pregnancy without a bonded father creates its own complications." She squeezed his hand gently. "There are options. Zenthari law allows for adoption of royal children by worthy individuals. The child would carry the adopted father's lineage." The implication hung between them like starlight. Ronan felt his pulse quicken. "Are you asking what I think you're asking?" "I'm asking if you would consider staying on Zenthari as more than an ambassador, as my bonded partner, as father to my child." The weight of the decision settled on his shoulders. Accepting would mean abandoning his career on Earth, living permanently among an alien species, and raising a child that wasn't genetically his. It would also mean claiming the love he had been denying for months. "The bonding ceremony would require you to undergo genetic modification. Your lifespan would be extended to match mine, your physiology altered to be compatible with our world. There's no going back." Ronan stood and began pacing the small chamber. Through the transparent walls, he could see the alien city stretching toward distant stars. "What about your people's acceptance? Many will see me as an outsider who stole their princess." "Some will," she admitted. "Others already speak of you with respect after witnessing your courage during the trial. Love conquers many prejudices, given time." He turned back to her, drinking in her alien beauty. Over the past months, her differences had become familiar, then beautiful, then essential. The thought of returning to Earth without her felt like tearing away part of his soul. "The genetic modifications," he said slowly, "are they irreversible?" "Completely. You would become something between human and Zenthari. Our offspring would be true hybrids, bridges between our species." The word offspring made his breath catch. The idea of children with Naira, of building a family among the stars, painted possibilities he had never allowed himself to imagine. "The personal meeting. Your father will have to approve the bonding," he pointed out. A mischievous smile crossed her features. "Father is practical above all else. A bonding between us would strengthen the alliance between our species. He'll see the political advantages quickly enough." "And personally, how does he feel about his daughter bonding with an alien?" "He respects you more than he shows. Your willingness to face death for your principles impressed him. Zenthari value courage above all other virtues." Ronan moved closer to the pod, his decision crystallizing. "There's something I need you to know. I've been falling in love with you since our first meeting. I've fought it because of the impossibilities, but I can't fight it anymore." Tears gathered in her luminous eyes. "And I have loved you since you first defended the rights of my people's servants in council. You see worth where others see only function." He leaned down to kiss her through the pod's opening, tasting the sweet minerals of her lips.
When they parted, she smiled with radiant joy. "Is that a yes to my proposal, Ambassador Matthews?" "It's a yes to everything," he whispered. "To bonding with you, to raising your child, to building a life among the stars, to loving you without reservation." Outside the medical chamber, the alien night blazed with the light of 3 moons. Soon, Ronan would speak with Lord Kael'veth about the bonding ceremony. Soon, he would undergo the genetic modifications that would transform him forever. But in this moment, holding Naira's hand, while their child grew within her, the future had never looked brighter.
The price of love. 6 months later, Ronan stood in the crystalline nursery holding his daughter for the first time. The baby girl was a perfect blend of human and Xanthari features. Her skin a pale silver touched with pink, her eyes the deep blue of Earth's oceans. Nira watched from the recovery bed, her face glowing with maternal joy. "She's beautiful," Ronan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. The genetic modifications he had undergone had changed more than his physiology. They had deepened his capacity for empathy and connection. Holding this child, he felt love beyond anything his purely human heart could have contained. "She has your determination," Nira observed softly. "Already she refuses to cry unless something is genuinely wrong. Very practical for a princess." The title still felt strange to Ronan. Princess Zara Neth, first of her hybrid lineage, heir to 2 worlds. The political implications of her birth had reverberated across both human and Xanthari space, opening new possibilities for cooperation between the species. Lord Kael'veth entered the nursery, his expression softer than Ronan had ever seen it. The months since the bonding ceremony had gradually worn away the Lord's resistance to his alien son-in-law, especially as Ronan proved his worth as both a diplomat and a devoted partner to Nira. "The Earth delegation has arrived for the naming ceremony. They bring gifts from your former government and messages from your family." Ronan felt a pang of homesickness. His parents had struggled to understand his choice to remain among the Xanthari, but they were gradually accepting that love had led him to a destiny larger than anything Earth could have offered. "Any word from the Colonial Council?" Nira asked. The human governing body had been debating whether to recognize their bonding as a legitimate diplomatic marriage. "Full recognition," Kael'veth replied with satisfaction. "Your daughter will be acknowledged as a citizen of both worlds, with all the rights and privileges that entails. The alliance treaty has been expanded to include provisions for future hybrid families." As if understanding the importance of the moment, baby Zara opened her eyes and gurgled softly. Her gaze seemed to focus on each adult in turn, as if already studying the complex world she would inherit. "She'll face challenges we can't imagine," Ronan said quietly. "Being the first of her kind, she'll carry expectations from both our peoples. She'll also have advantages we never possessed. The ability to understand both cultures from within. The chance to build bridges we could never construct." The sound of approaching footsteps announced more visitors. Ronan's former colleagues from the Earth Diplomatic Corps entered, followed by Xanthari nobles and courtiers. The mixing of the 2 species in celebration would have been impossible a year ago. Ambassador Chen, Ronan's replacement, approached with a formal smile. "Congratulations on your daughter's birth, Ronan. The Earth government sends their best wishes and a formal request for you to serve as liaison for hybrid affairs." It was an elegant solution to the complexities of his situation. Ronan could serve both worlds while remaining with his new family. "I'd be honored to accept the position." As the ceremony proceeded, with traditional blessings from both cultures, Ronan reflected on the journey that had brought him here. A false accusation had led to truth, conflict had revealed love, and choosing an alien world had paradoxically made him more human than ever before. Princess Zara Neth was presented to the assembled dignitaries as the first hybrid heir in Zenthari history. The baby accepted the attention with regal composure, as if already aware of her unique destiny. That night, as the celebrations wound down and their guests departed, Ronan and Nira sat together on the palace balcony. Their daughter slept peacefully between them as the alien stars wheeled overhead. "Do you ever regret it?" Nira asked softly, "giving up everything you knew for an uncertain future?" Ronan looked at his bonded mate, at their sleeping child, at the impossible beauty of the alien world that had become home. "Each choice has a price," he said, "but some prices purchase miracles." In the distance, the lights of the first joint human and Zenthari research facility glowed against the darkness. Their love story had become something larger, a bridge between worlds that would outlast their individual lives. Their daughter stirred in her sleep, and for a moment her unique eyes reflected both the silver light of Zenthari moons and the golden warmth of distant Earth. She was living proof that love could transcend species, that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach across the void between worlds. "What happens next?" Nero whispered. Ronan smiled, pulling his alien family closer. "We write the next chapter, together."